Hey everyone, I am Steve Yee. I lead growth and marketing at Educative. And thank you for joining today's webinar on making the leap to engineering manager, brought to you by Educative. So before we get started, I'd love to see where everyone is joining from. This is a fun little activity we do on all our webinars. So in the chat in the bottom, love to hear everyone introduce yourselves and tell me where you're calling in from. Sorry, uh, where you're listening in from. So I'm seeing Seattle, Sri Lanka. So we got a great global audience, and that's fantastic. And in Egypt, Pakistan, Mexico, that's fantastic. And in today's webinar, we're going to also take live Q&A. So if you see in the live storm interface on the bottom, you might see an area that says questions. So we have the chat that's great for everyone posting comments. But if you have a specific question that you want our speaker today to take a look at, please put that in the questions tab or in the questions area. And that also gives an opportunity for other people to upvote your question. And then that gives it a greater chance of us prioritizing that in our live Q&A today. And so uh, we are joined today by Ikram, who has over 15 years experience at a variety of blue chip tech companies. He is most recently a founding member of a startup called Katanemo. I think they just had their public launch just within the past couple of days. So visit them at katanemo.com. And he also brings a wealth of knowledge based on his engineering leadership roles at Meta, Lyft, Microsoft, and eBay. And he was also one of the founding team members of Microsoft Azure. Now, how were we able to get such a great speaker for today's talk? He is also an author of one of our new courses called Grokking the Engineering Management and Leadership Interviews. So this is a great course for people who are looking to make a role change and either getting into or shifting laterally to leadership roles within the tech sector. So I wanted to give you a quick preview of this before you start the webinar of what that course looks like and what are the contents. And there's a lot of great stuff in here. I took a little bit of time to preview this course myself. So we have got topics around people management, project management, collaboration, within organizations, especially with across teams, how to handle behavioral interviews, and working through that interview process. And so, each one of these has got some great lessons in there as well, in detail that goes into this into greater depth. And so this is a great resource for folks who are looking to make the leap to management, or are looking for a new role in today's market. And so I've got maybe like 30 more seconds of advertise before we jump into the webinar. And that is that we also have a bunch of other coding interview and interview related classes, and we'll have links to this later on. But one of the ones I wanted to highlight is this grokking coding interviews. So folks who are still doing highly technical interviews, these are great courses in different languages. And these are also provide AI assisted coaching as well, which is new. And you can see that this is AI powered here in the beta. So a quick example of that is that, let's see, I had this bookmarked earlier. So not only does it have great lessons, but there are also coding exercises here, which will give you AI-assisted coaching based on the code that you put in there. Now, this is just one of the examples. I'm sorry, I didn't have it. Oh, here it is. This is one of the examples of the AI-assisted coaching. So not only does it have great exercises for learning here, but then you can also test out your code, and if you get it wrong, it'll provide feedback on how you can improve your code and get it to compile correctly. Or if you still get the test cases, but it's suboptimal code, we will also provide feedback on how you can actually improve that. So it's not just yes or no, but it could be yes, but this is how you could also improve your code as well. So you can see an example of the coaching that this provides. So this is an outstanding learning resource. All right. So I think my colleague Josh, under the pseudonym Educative Webinars, has posted links to these two resources for you to check out. So so please do, but let's jump back into today's webinar. And so today, Ikram is going to be covering a variety of topics around becoming an engineering manager. The first one is really evaluating your motivations and making sure that they align with becoming an effective manager. What are the skills necessary that are necessary to be a manager? And it's not just technical skills. There's a whole host of new things that you need to learn. And then what is that transition process like from becoming an individual contributor to attaining success through others? And then what are the common pitfalls to avoid as you go through this transition process? And then how do you actually achieve against new performance goals and different performance goals that are placed in front of you that are vastly different from when you're an individual developer to actually achieving success as a team? So let me hand this over to Ikram and let him introduce himself and take us through motivations for becoming a manager.
Okay, all right. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Steve, for having me here and introducing me. And thank you, educative community, for listening to me and hearing about my experience. And hopefully, this talk is going to be useful for everyone. As Steve mentioned, we would like to keep this conversational, so please ask questions if you have any. A little bit background about me. I have more than 17 years of experience of building software at many companies, which Steve already shared. Currently, I am in a startup, founding member in a tech startup called Katanemo, and coincidentally, we launched it just a couple of days ago. If you get a chance, please take a look at our website, www.katanemo.com. Before Katanemo, I was leading training data platform team at Meta, which powered all the ads at Instagram and Facebook. So it was a pretty big team. The topic we are going to talk about today is, in fact, very dear to me because I had a lot of challenges and confusions when I transitioned to engineering manager role. I was not sure whether it's a good fit for me. I was confused, and in fact, I was offered a couple of times to jump the boat and transition to EM role, but I declined that offer both times before I actually became manager in 2018. And the biggest reason was that I am having really, successful career as an IC. I'm growing. Why should I transition and go to a side where I don't know how the grass looks on the other side? So, but there are going to be different situations for everybody. It may be that team needs one, you really want to grow. But first of all, you have to understand that there are good reasons why do you want to transition to EM role? Because I have heard the really not so great reasons for this transition. For example, I have heard people that they're not interested in writing code anymore, so they want to transition to EM role. I have heard people saying that they can't grow anymore as an IC, so want to transition to EM role. And some people, you would have heard people saying that they want to have authority, and those are not really good reasons to transition to EM role. So first of all, you have to ask yourself and understand that what is the reason behind you, why do you want to switch to EM role? So that is something we're going to talk more about it, that how to go around it and understand various things, uh, and asking yourself that it's a good fit for you or not. So the first thing is that it's going to be a completely different job than being an individual contributor. So it's not going to be, if you are a successful individual contributor, doesn't automatically mean you're going to be a successful engineering manager. And you have to invest a lot of times in learning new skills to become a good manager. So what can be the good reasons? Who is this role good fit for? So I would say that number one, anyone who wants to work with people, who is good with people, who has like really good people skills, and they have good collaboration skills, and they are willing to invest time to learn new skills. So whenever you want to start a new job, even if you are a rock star as an engineer, you have to invest time in learning new skills. And we are going to talk about all of those topics in coming slides. Steve, can you move to next slide, please?
Sure. Yeah, before we do, I actually have a couple of questions that have that came up, and I've got a question from I believe his name is Naveed. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that correctly. So this person has been a tech lead for a few years, and he's wondering what the pros and cons of becoming a manager are. Should we defer that to a subsequent section, or do you want to tackle that question now?
We'll cover this question. I think we'll cover this topic in our subsequent slides, but I will quickly respond here as well. So I don't think there is like good or bad of remaining tech lead or transitioning to EM role. So it depends from person to person and situation to situation. So, and being a tech lead has only requires only subset of skills which are required for being a manager. Yes, you have to have in a technical leadership role, but the people management has a lot of additional things as well. So we will talk about that, what you need to do to if you really want to transition to EM role. So it can be like, but go either way, that is it a still good fit for you or not? We'll cover that in our subsequent slides.
Okay, thanks, Ikram. And I see that one has gotten a lot of upvotes, and I can also speak from like personal experiences that I've personally seen people who made the transition from an individual contributor to manager, and then either found out and realized that there wasn't like what their strengths were, and they moved back to an individual leadership role or maybe a tech lead role. And then other people had the decision made for them that they weren't a great manager.
Yeah,
and so
I'll talk about it.
Yes. Yeah, and then it is definitely a transition. So why don't we talk about this next section here for, what are the, if you're committed to becoming a manager, what are the skills that are necessary?
Okay, so whenever you want to become a manager, so you thought that you are good with people, you have experience with as a tech lead, and now based on, and sometimes like it may be just organic need that your previous manager left the company and you have been in a tech lead position for some time, you have earned your respect, and your manager just wants to switch to EM role. And so there can be various situations for different people. So being a technical leader and having those skills is a prereq that you must be a good and successful IC. It's a required qualification, and you must have possessed like some cross team and cross functional collaboration skills, Though when you transition to EM, the other aspects of collaboration also come in, that involves working with business teams, working with you know higher management for upward communication, and but these are the two, like, really core things which you must have. For the remaining of the things, you will have partially as a tech lead. In a tech lead role, you will have some skills, and but you should be willing to invest a lot of time. The most of the time you will be spending on is people management skills. As a tech lead, you will have a lot of project management skills, but still there are other aspects of project management skills which you're going to learn. We are going to talk in next slide about those. And another complete new aspect, you may be helping in hiring, helping your manager and leadership in hiring and team building, but actually hiring takes a lot of time, and you need to learn a lot of new techniques, a lot of new skills for both hiring and team building. Your team is growing. You may need to, like, when the team is growing, you may need to change the organizational structure within your team, or may have to change do a reorg with another, merge with some other team. So, like, and you have to understand that area as well. And another important area which will be almost brand new to even being a senior engineer, you may be involved in some of the performance evaluation, but it's the performance evaluation is a beast itself. It is probably the most hated topic discussed among the managers, which every manager must has to do, but they are like not happy doing. I have heard during the performance cycle times from the you may have experienced this as well. All from your have heard from your own managers that how they feel during the performance evaluation time. It's challenging, a tough time, and you have patience to do that. Have to be ready to spend hours and hours for each of your team members. So last thing, that how do you define a good manager? I thought that it's important here. I there can be many definitions, but in my opinion, a good manager is the one who has a happy and growing team, and at the same time uh, delivering the business results. If one of these things are not there, so you can have a happy team and not delivering business results, not good enough. If you have your team is like really good at delivering results and they're not happy, it's not good. That team is not going to remain intact. People will start, you will have high attrition rate, people will start leaving, or they will get burned out. So yeah, both of these things are important.
Thanks,
And
Ikram. If you if do you have any like personal stories of, where you talk about there's a whole host of skills that need to be learned, like people management, project management, hiring, and performance evaluation. So can you talk about like some experiences that you learned, how you learned this on the job, or during your as you made that transition to becoming a manager?
yeah, sure. So I would talk about people management skills. I always thought that I am really good with people. So being good with people is a prereq, and I thought that I don't have to acquire a new skill here, and this will be my go-to area. But as soon as I transitioned to EM role, then I realized that there is a whole set of new things. Like, for example, the biggest change for me was that the team, my colleagues, which used to be my friends, and now as soon as the relationship changed, it was our I have to rebuild the trust relationship. I have to acquire new skills to actually, do a bunch of things around people management. So same goes with the project management. I thought that I have been in tech lead role for so long, so I have been doing uh, long-term and short-term plannings. I'm really good at it. I'm strong at it. But then I came here and I had to write like strategy docs and VN docs for multiple years. It was a whole new beast for me to learn. Like its ambiguity was really, really high. So yeah, I
Right.
hope
So
that
I mean,
helps.
yeah. So like for example, like learning like how to author like these strategy docs. Did you have a mentor, or did you seek? Were you like unafraid to ask questions at work, or were there books and online learnings that you did? How did you overcome that hurdle?
Indeed, that is an excellent question, and I'm going to cover that in our transition plan doc as well. So,
Okay.
but let me go through the first thing when I started talking about the transition. I built the transition plan, and and in that transition plan, one of the thing was having a mentor. Like I discussed my challenges, my thoughts, and I had a mentor, like to help me throughout the transition process. And I attended a bunch of different trainings. In addition to like have some reading, which I will recommend at the end of this talk. Also had took some training, particularly around people management skills.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so what are the core management skills which you need to learn? So we can talk hours and hours. Actually, each of individual topics listed here. So we cannot go into the details of all of these topics. The the first thing which you need to learn as a manager is delivering through others. So as an individual contributor, you have a lot of control where you're going to write code, you're going to design things. Even in a tech lead role, you have more control. You will be basically working with a much smaller team. In most of the cases, I have seen the situations where very senior tech leads, they are leading the projects which cross the boundaries of various teams, but generally they have much better control and on their impact. But as a manager, you produce impact through others. So and particularly when you are just transitioning from IC to EM role, uh, you will all experience this of not letting things go. Even when you transition from just a pure IC to a tech lead role, you would see that you have tendency that you can do this thing really fast and have impact, produce impact. So letting things go out of your hand, it seems very easy on paper that you can deliver to others, but believe me, it is very challenging, particularly if you have been a successful IC in the team for a very long time. When you transition, sometimes it is just because you want to help others, or because you want to earn respect, or there can be many reasons, and you continue doing the work yourself. And second topic, doing effective one-on-ones. Like you think that, at least I thought before transition, that this is probably the easiest thing. You just have to do meetings, have a one-on-one every week. But having effective one-on-one, what I learned, and I was told as well that my mentor told me that this meeting may seem less important, but this should be the most important meeting on your calendar. And I religiously followed it throughout my engineering management career, because this is the meeting where you build trust relationship you build trust with your team members. And this shouldn't be a status update. This should be, we can talk hours what good and effective one-on-one is. But if you ask me, there are two things. This should be most important things and most important meeting on your calendar to build trust relationship. And the second is, it should be your team members' time, not the status update time.
Got it.
And Steve, did you want to ask something?
Yeah, so I think a relevant question here is being asked by, I believe it's Dawood. So, so his question or her question is around, how do you lead a team of people who are technically weak, or maybe perhaps like immature or less experienced. So, can you talk about like some experiences that you had and lessons learned, and perhaps how you applied like some of these strategies around people management to kind of like upskill or and mature that team?
Yes, definitely. I actually ran into this experience once. So I was leading a team, a core team at Lyft, and there was another team where a bunch of people quit, and manager also left, and I was asked to start supporting that team as well. Unfortunately, the tech lead had already left, and people were really smart, but they did not have enough experience. So uh, there are, depending upon the situation, you can uh, take care of things different ways. But in this case, what I did was uh, I was able to shuffle I was able to bring a tech lead from my other team. So the strategy should be that as soon as possible, bring some, if that is an option, bring some senior technical folks from other team. Like if you think that you don't have capacity from other teams, so talk to someone like your own manager, talk to your director, talk to your VP, and ask for help that you need senior people in your team. You can give trainings, but you can basically provide support and everything. It would be hard uh, to develop team without having experience from. It will take much longer to develop those skills by trainings and experience within the team. So I would strongly recommend bringing someone who has experience, who has skills, uh, and help to grow people.
Got it. Okay. Uh, Before I move on, I think let's see. There was also another interesting worded question from Ash, and their question was, uh, "What are your insights, or what's your perspective on how expendable are engineering managers during a tech recession?" So I think really that it probably boils down to is really is like how do you how effective are you as a manager? But I'd love to get your take on this question.
That's very interesting and good question, actually. So, uh, I think that I'll be very transparent about it. Not anything bad about engineering managers, but the first thing a lot of companies, like particularly smaller companies, they started to think that they can cut down on the managers, but big companies, they understand it very, very well, that to keep the team healthy, to keep the people happy, good engineering managers are like, they're really short in the market, and they really need it. And it may be in the, like, I saw it that like smaller tech companies, they thought that, we have to keep the individual contributors around, we have to keep like senior technical uh, folks in the company, but we can let go the engineering managers. They probably, like, senior tech leads can take care uh, of that work. But the big companies, for example, Meta and all other companies, they needed to trim down some fat, because usually the companies, they overhire um, to compensate any attrition rates. So they hire managers in advance, so that who can hire individual contributors when there is no plan to hire more individual contributors. So they had to trim some fat. Other than that, I don't think managers are more expandable, compared to, both have like their own critical roles. If you're a good manager, you will be needed as much as good ICs. So demand for both. Actually, like, finding good managers is a lot more difficult. The reason behind it is, for example, if you make a mistake in hiring uh, in hiring an IC, the impact is much smaller. But if you end up hiring a bad manager, impact is much higher and much bigger. So that's why companies, they don't tend to lose the engineering managers, good engineering managers easily, because of this reason.
Right. Yeah, I
Hopefully
just
I
thought of
answered your
an
question.
No, that's a great response. I also just thought of like I don't know if people on the call have seen the movie Office Space. I think it came out in the late '90s, but there was like the one manager who all he basically walked the requirements from one office down the hall to the engineers, and that was his entire job. So I think the most important thing is like really one important thing for me is like reflecting on is like, are you actually providing value beyond just like walking the requirements down the hall?
Yeah, thank
Uh,
you for adding to it. Yeah, so
um,
it
uh,
reminds me the Office series as well. So
yeah, exactly. Okay, so why don't we jump into our next section and talking about that transition process from making that leap. So walk us through like your experiences and the what you want to share with the audience here.
okay, so yeah, thank you for moving on to transition process. We had few other topics left on the learning slide, but we
Oh, I'm
can end
sorry.
up
Oh,
talk. No,
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 no.
it's fine. I
Uh,
think so. We can spend hours and hours on core
okay.
management skills, and we will not end up, because each an individual topic of these, I have taken a bunch of trainings for almost all of these topics. So when you transition to EM role, you think that you were a very successful IC. Now you will automatically become a successful manager, but that's not true at all. And you have to acquire new skills. Be ready to invest a lot of time in acquiring all those skills. So whether through trainings, through mentorship, or through uh, reading some so but the best experience you will get it through on hands. Once you have talked to your manager and your manager agrees that it can be but you it can be potentially a good move for you to transition to EM role. The actual transition process starts. It varies from company to company. Some companies, for some, as I mentioned earlier, it may be like as instant as a previous manager had already left, and they just transition to EM role, and that may be the fastest transition, but that may not be the best transition, because you were just an IC, you did not acquire all those skills needed for the new role. I would rather, even if that happens, I would actually encourage you to just start investing on acquiring new skills as soon as possible if you really want to be successful as a engineering manager. So what should be the process look like? What the most usual process where you want to become a manager, you talk to your manager that I want to transition to your role. So first of all, build a solid plan that, okay, what are the growth areas? What are the gaps? There are definitely going to be some gaps, and list down all those gaps, and figure out uh, an action plan for all of those gaps. Okay, like you need to learn people management skills, you need to learn conflict resolution, you need to learn these things. So you're going to take this training, you have this mentor who you're going to discuss the situations with, and the thing here I'm trying to the point I'm trying to make here is that have a strong and solid plan with individual action plans, that these are the things which I need to do, these are the gaps, with the timelines. Okay, have a discussion with manager that this much time and these are the things which I will do to fill those gaps. So and one thing which is very important, that when you may be like very successful engineer, when you're going to transition to EM role, your first half, your performance most likely is not going to stay the same. I have seen it happen a lot, that you are like greatly exceeding expectations in your IC role, and then you transition to, and you have been doing that for a long time. That's why you were considered for this transition. I would never call it a promotion, because transition to EM role is not promotion at all. So that's why you were considered for transition, because you were a successful IC. Now, when you transition to EM role, expect that you're getting a lower performance rating in the first, like at least one half or first year, just through your first performance cycle, because it's a new job for you. You are still acquiring skills. You are learning new skills. So initially, you may start team of 4 to 5 people, and in actually some companies, what they do is they will ask you to step down a little bit. That I remember that at Lyft it was a mandatory process that if you are no one can become engineering manager unless they were like level 6 engineer, who is like staff engineer, and but they have to step one level down. Actually, they have to start M0 the first 6 months, and in 6 months it will be decided that whether you are a good fit for manager. If you are a good fit for manager, you will grow from M0 to M1, which was the basically equivalent to E6. And if it was not a good fit, you will transition back to E6 role. And it may be like the not good fit can go because of either you were not really good at managing people, or you did not like it at all and you just want to switch back to IC. So there's in almost all of the companies there is it's not a one-way road. So if you really want to try, have a discussion, build a plan, and then start the transition, and you can always go back if you really don't like it. Because I have seen people who were very successful ICs, and then they feel miserably being a manager, and they just basically transition back to IC. And some people, they thought that it's not their problem, it's team problem, that but still they were forced to switch back to IC role. So it can go anyway.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think we do have one question that's wanted to bring up, but I think from a personal anecdote, I think you brought up a great point that you can be a stellar individual contributor, but you can don't be surprised if your performance rating declines a little bit as you're making that start as a manager. For me, I was back when I was an engineer, I was a stellar individual contributor, but on one of my reviews, I guess from my direct reports, when I was early in my management career, he called me the second worst manager he ever had, which was true. And I was very competitive, so I was like wondering why I wasn't the worst manager he ever had, but I never found out. But I wanted to just share short story.
Actually, I would just like to add here that my worst performance rating throughout my whole career was when I transitioned to EM role for the first time. So that was a huge shock for me, but it ended up giving me insight that I need to acquire a lot of new skills. It's not just automatic. So, but I was glad that I had really, really great manager. He was a great mentor too, and he helped me to navigate through that time. And I just, in a matter of like few months, I became a successful manager. So my first survey from employees, that the satisfaction survey from my team members, it was really low. And the second one was the highest in the team, just by focusing on small things and changing my relationships with the team.
Got it. That's excellent. I think you and I differ in the fact that I never send out team morale surveys. But let's jump to this question asked by Daniel. So this question is, I think, really, and this might be more suitable for people who are in a big tech company where you have like all these different types of roles versus like a smaller startup. But I guess as from your perspective, like perhaps this is around like personality traits and passions, but how do you think about the difference, like, or maybe the personal traits people that gravitate towards perhaps like, a project manager versus a product manager or an engineering manager role, and what type of people are suited for those roles?
So what I have seen because I worked with project managers, technical program managers in all big tech companies at Meta, at Lyft. There were similar roles at Microsoft too, and at eBay. So these roles are like very different roles that, they're completely different jobs. Like, for example, the project manager, it has becoming engineering manager is a very different thing, because there is going to be project manager ICs, and then there are going to be project managers who support the IC project managers team. And so it's true for product managers. So, but I have seen, like, when usually after a few years of experience, it will be hard to switch from being an hardcore developer to a project manager, or vice versa. But I have seen people transitioning from like one engineering manager role to other engineering manager role. That people who are managing technical program managers, and that someday, like, they got a software engineers team and they transition to that role. It will be yes, they have to acquire some new skills, but they will have like people management skills and those things. So transition to product manager, TPM, or product manager, it's going to be completely different path compared to transition to engineering manager role. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So in the interest of time, why don't we keep moving along? And there are some other points that you wanted to make about like making that transition.
Yeah, so I briefly covered these topics in my previous slide, and you also brought this mentor thing in the beginning, Steve. Having so a lot of mentorship you will getting from, and support you will getting from your own leadership, your own manager, your own director, and but having a strong mentor will bring a lot of value, that where you can get the like second opinion about a lot of things in conflict resolution, in managing people, in building relationships, and all those things. You should talk about estimated time. Already covered about areas of growth. And another thing is finding the replacement. You were, strong and successful IC in your team, and you were basically doing a lot of heavy lifting for your manager. Now, when you were transitioning to EM role, so you were one of the reasons to make your manager successful. Now, when you were switching to to new role, you have to find your own replacement. Until then, you will be kind of doing two jobs, and it is extremely hard. EM requires a lot of its own work, and if you will not be spending time to do that, you will be setting up yourself for failure. So maybe initially you have smaller team, you have bandwidth, but when team grows, you really have to find your replacement as soon as possible. Have to either growing someone from inside the team to become tech lead, or hiring someone from outside. So it will vary from organization to organization that how you will do that. And timeline will also vary from company to company. In some companies, the time to transition is like 6 months to a year. For example, I have seen at Meta, the transition process takes some time, like, almost a year, that when you start thinking about transition to EM role, and during that process, you will find the replacement as well. So another really important thing, that once you have completed the transition, you should set very clear expectations for you, like what are the goals in the first month. You should talk to your manager and mentor both to come up with these goals, that in first month you will basically have just the one-on-ones with everybody. You will have these things. You will basically keep getting feedback from your team. You should have quarterly goals. You should have the first half goals and first year goals. and you should evaluate yourself. There will be a performance evaluation, but in addition to that, you should evaluate yourself that how you are doing against those goals.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So let's talk about avoiding some of these common pitfalls that we've kind of hinted at during the conversation.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me when I transitioned to EM role was that the instant gratification that, oh, you are basically shipped this huge change, you fix some like critical bug, and there was a huge impact. But with the EM job, there is no instant gratification at most of the times. There are situations where you may get the instant gratification that, for example, like you landed a IC7 just by in one interview, in one conversation, but that will happen rarely. To land an E7 engineer in your team, you have to work for months and months, and so that was the biggest challenge for me. Another, like when you transition the job which you loved for many years, and now you are not writing code anymore. So it's again debatable that whether you should write code or not when you transition to EM role. I don't have actually a strong opinion around it because a lot of people will recommend that, oh, like you should completely stop writing code. I don't agree with that philosophy. I think that when you have a smaller team, you should not work on like really important core features. You should grow your own team members, but writing code around like some less critical paths, it should be fine. And in fact, you should do it, particularly when you have a smaller team. Another thing is that a lot of things which managers do from every day, day to day, you don't see tangible results. Like, when you ship code, you see that it's deployed, you see there are metrics and all those things, but what managers do it on day-to-day basis, it's a lot of times it's hard to measure actually. Many days, EMs, they just go home and think, oh, like I did not have 1 minute today, or the whole day I was working, but what I accomplished, it's like and many days are like that. So the results and impact come from managers is our longer period of time, that having a happy, growing and strong team, and helping people to grow their careers. It is very rewarding, but it's not instant. Another thing which briefly touched was the people who were previously your friends, they were your colleagues, now you became their manager, and relationship will change. You will see that when people will start hiding from you, and you will see that your trust is being broken over there. So believe me, expect that that's going to happen. And previously, when you were sharing your opinion, it's not opinion anymore. Even if you are just saying, I think we should do it. So as a manager, always be very careful saying that I think we should do it. Even you are not a boss. I don't consider managers as a boss, but you, at the end of the day, as a manager, you do the performance evaluation. You basically have a lot of say in these many things. So must be really, really careful on sharing your opinions and your thoughts, because it's in fact not your opinion anymore. No matter how healthy, how safe environment you have in the team, you should do that, like having a very healthy and very safe environment in the team, but still when sharing experience, be careful. Okay, another thing that you may try to have impact same way as NYC by shipping products, but as a manager, the impact comes other ways, and you have to learn those things, that how to have impact as a manager. It's maybe by growing. I think so the biggest is growing people, growing business, growing team, resolving conflicts, and all those things are the ways to have impact, in addition to shipping products and delivering to others. Okay.
All right. So speaking about relationships with people on the team, Shabar had a question I thought was really interesting. And so, how do you answer, or how do you work with people on your team that you might have like a personality clash, or just like an, kind of like, someone you wouldn't want to, you wouldn't be friends with outside of work, so to speak. Like, how do you create a productive working relationship with that person?
That is indeed a very great question because so the fundamental and most important thing is that your personal relationships shouldn't affect your work relationship. Although you may have, like, if you're friends with them, there are some and uh, like indirect advantages they're going to get, that you're going basically out with them, or having more time with them, having more coffee time, you're having lunches with them. So as a manager, you have to be very careful that you, even if you are not friends with the people, all team members should get same opportunity to learn from you, to get same amount of visibility. So it is actually like, when you are managing bigger teams, it is going to be the case. When you are managing like 3 people team, 4, 5, 6, 8 people team, you can try to have, like, similar people with a similar background, and it's actually not good idea. You should have diversity in the team, and when you will have diversity in the team, you will people will think different ways. They will basically have different ideas, and you will most likely not be friends with all of them. So have to be make intentional choices uh, to not be unfair, and have equal opportunity for everyone in the team to learn and grow. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So why don't we start wrapping things up, because we're getting close to the top of the hour. And let's talk about some of like the most impactful resources that and books that you have found in your career.
Okay, so I read quite a few books actually when I was transitioning to EM role. So I would say that it was not clear on the first thing that which book is useful and which was not. These are the 2 books which I really loved the most. Becoming an effective software engineer. It's actually, I consider it as it should be a compulsory book for all the people who transition to EM role. It talks about the strategies and on various aspects and things which we previously talked today's talk. And the other thing, the crucial conversations tool for talking when stakes are high. This book, I love it so much. I did not read it completely. I think I read like almost half of it. This is not only the people who want to transition to EM. I see that everyone should read this book. And the third one is Grokking the Engineering. I just recommended my own, book. So not necessarily you have to agree to it, but it's my books. I put it here. It's
All
not
right.
book, it's a course. So
Right. Yeah, this is the course that we talked about earlier, and so I think we'll post a link to the chat, to link to that course in the chat again. So Ikram, I want to thank you so much for your time today. And if you enjoyed this and would like to hear about extra topics, or in topics like more on programming topics, or more content on engineering management or interview prep, love to hear your ideas in the chat section. So please post your comments. We will definitely be reading those and following up on that. And as we wrap things up, everyone who attends this call will get a follow-up email shortly after. That'll give you an opportunity to win either a free personal subscription, which is worth $300 to our entire educative catalog. Or if you're interested in bringing educative learning resources for your team and getting free learning in your team environment at work, sign up for the giveaway opportunity in the for Educative Enterprise. So everyone is going to get that email shortly after today's webinar. And I also encourage you to check out our interview prep landing page. So if you go to educative.io/interview, you should see that link in the chat in just a moment. But it gives you a highlight to some of our most popular courses on interview prep, including system design, coding interview patterns, which I showed you a little bit earlier. That also has like the AI assisted coaching, low-level interview design questions around object-oriented design principles, and grokking the API design interview. And we also have 80 other interview prep courses. They're all available as a subscription. So you buy one subscription, you get access to our entire course catalog of over 600 courses. And also, if you just want to get on our mailing list, we have this really great white paper on a roadmap for getting ready for the developer interview, for things that are key things to learn and resources to help you manage that process over the 12 weeks. So thank you again very much, Ikram. It was great to have you. Thank you for sharing your insights with us.
Sure.
And I want to thank everyone who joined today's webinar. Hopefully this was helpful to you and you got something out of it. So there were a lot of questions that we didn't get to. I will follow up with Ikram and we'll try to get back to everyone on those questions that we didn't answer during today's webinar. So I hope everyone has a great day, and I hope we talk again soon. We do these webinars about once a month. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for listening to me, and it was great talking to you. Hopefully, it was useful. Steve, as Steve mentioned, we will go through the questions and we'll try to respond to all of those.
Great. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you. If you enjoyed this video, help us out by liking and subscribing, and tell us in the comments if you want us to explore any other languages or topics. Come visit us at educative.io, where we have over 600 courses spanning programming languages, web development, data science, and system design and interview prep that provide pre-built dev environments that let you code directly in the browser so you don't have to configure anything. Thanks for listening, and maybe check out one of these videos next. Thanks.